Welcome to the Bakersfield City Council meeting. This television broadcast is brought to you by the local cable companies, the County of Kern, and the City of Bakersfield. You can watch the rebroadcast of this meeting Saturday at 7 p.m., Sunday at 10 a.m., and the following Wednesday at 7 p.m. You can download the agenda for this meeting at www.bakersfieldcity.us. Presiding over this evening's meeting, the Honorable Mayor Karen K. Go.
Good evening. It's my pleasure to call to order the 5:15 regular City Council meeting of April 24th, 2024. Welcome to all of you. We're glad to have you. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Mayor Go.
Here.
Vice Mayor Gonzalez. Councilmember Arias. Councilmember Weir. Councilmember Smith.
I am here.
Councilmember Freeman. Here. Councilmember Gray. Here. And Councilmember Kaur.
Here. Thank you. For the record, Vice Mayor has walked in. 5:17. We have the pleasure of having Pastor Gary Barber from the Oaks Community Church. Pastor Sam's there also to offer the invocation. Pastor and the Oaks team, we're just so glad for your presence in our community and the wonderful cultural offerings that you've provided. It was great. It was great to see the hula worship and then the various festivities, but thank you so much. Following Pastor's invocation, we'll have Councilmember Kaur lead us in the pledge. Would you please stand?
Thank you, Mayor Go and City Council members. It is an honor to be here. It is an honor to pray for our great city. We are thankful for God's mercy upon Bakersfield. Today I was taking a walk and saw something I've never seen in all my years. The colors of a rainbow in 4 clouds south of town. I took a picture of it. It reminded me of God's covenant of mercy with all of creation, where he said he would set a rainbow to remind us that his judgment would not fall upon all of creation again as it had in the early days when the flood took place. So, with that in mind, I'm going to pray for God's mercy upon our city, and I'm going to pray for the fulfillment of what is called the New Covenant, which God says he has now brought about through his Son, Jesus. Almighty God, we give you thanks and praise today for your mercy upon all of our lives. We do not deserve mercy, but you have granted it to us. We thank you for your mercy upon our city and your grace. We thank you, Lord, for your blessings. We give thanks today for our city council members, for our mayor, for all those who serve in this city. We give thanks for the citizens that are here that are interested in what is happening with our government and with what decisions we're making. We give you thanks today and ask for wisdom and strength and guidance. We ask for your grace to cover us. And Lord, I do pray, according to your word, that as you set forth a covenant previously of law that didn't work, you then said that you would establish a covenant of mercy and grace through your Son, Jesus. And you say there that you will then write that law on our hearts. It won't be an external law. It will be written upon our hearts. It will be a special work of your grace, Lord, so that we will no longer have to search for you, but we can know you. You said that we won't have to tell one another or teach one another, but each person will know you, from the least to the greatest. And you say that you will be our God and we will be your people. That this covenant of grace and mercy will be something that you work because we cannot, by our own efforts, establish righteousness. We need your grace and your mercy to be people of righteousness. So we remember then the promise that you said you will forgive our iniquities, you will remember our sins no more. And we give you thanks today, Lord, that through Jesus Christ, our Lord, we can have the forgiveness of our sins. And Lord, I do pray for the great city of Bakersfield that we might experience this new covenant. We might experience your grace. We might experience, Lord, a deep knowledge of who you are. We ask you, Lord, for wisdom because we don't have wisdom of ourselves that can solve problems. We ask you, Lord, for knowledge because we can only discover a portion of what we need to know. We ask you, O Lord, for power and strength. And I do pray, Father, for every single city council member and for all of those who are in government here in our county and our city, that, Lord, they would have empowering from you and guidance from you. We also give you thanks, Lord, for the international city that Bakersfield is becoming. We thank you for those who you've brought to us from all over the world. And we pray blessing upon all those who have joined here in this community to make this a great community. We pray, Father, for your mercy and grace now, and we pray this in the name of Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen.
Thank you for the prayer, and thank you for our veterans who have served under this flag and for our veterans who are joining us today. Join me as we salute. Pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, and you may be seated. And thank you, Pastor Gary and Pastor Sam. Councilmember Kaur mentioned our veterans, and I think right now they are flying back, a group of Honor Flight veterans from Washington, D.C., where they had the pleasure of seeing the memorials built in their honor. Here are a few guidelines to help our meeting run smoothly. We request that you turn off your phones. Please be courteous in the use of cameras and videos for safety reasons and as a courtesy to others. No signs are allowed in the council chamber or in the lobby. Applause is allowed during the presentations portion of the meeting, but not during the other portions of the meeting. Everyone in attendance is expected to adhere to the rules of decorum established by resolution of the City Council. Failure to abide by the city's rules of decorum, including any disruptive behavior that interferes with our ability to have an orderly and efficient meeting, prevents the City Council from conducting the business of the city. Consider this a first warning to everyone in attendance that conduct that disrupts the meeting may result in your being removed from the meeting and/or the chamber being cleared. Behavior that disrupts the meeting includes repetitive statements, shouting, interrupting staff or presenters during the meeting, speaking out of turn, outbursts from the audience, and surpassing the 2-minute time limit. Madam Clerk, next item, please.
Presentations item 4A, proclamation to Eileen Para, Director of Client Services for the Open Door Network, declaring Sexual Assault Awareness Month in Bakersfield during April 2024.
My colleagues, 1 in 4 women and 1 in 7 men have survived some form of sexual assault in their lifetime. This could be a neighbor, a coworker, a family member, or a friend. These numbers are alarming. They are unacceptable. And thank you to the Open Door Network for their service to our community and their continued efforts to advocate for our survivors. It's my honor to present this proclamation. Whereas the President of the United States has designated April as Sexual Assault Awareness Month, and whereas the Open Door Network has dedicated the month of April to raising awareness of sexual assault in Bakersfield and the other communities of Kern County, and providing the highest quality of service to the survivors of this heinous crime, and whereas the city of Bakersfield applauds the tireless efforts of all who care for survivors of sexual assault, and whereas the city of Bakersfield unequivocally condemns those who commit sexual assaults and affirms those who do shall find no rest in our city, now therefore I, Karen Go, Mayor of the city of Bakersfield, do hereby proclaim April 2024 as Sexual Assault Awareness Month in our city, and call upon all citizens to observe this month with appropriate ceremonies and observances in which the residents of Bakersfield and Kern County may join to uplift the survivors and create a community free from sexual assault. It's my honor to be able to present this now to you. Thank you so much.
Again, thank you for recognizing April as Sexual Assault Awareness Month in our city. One thing I like to share is April 24th is recognized also as Denim Day, so a lot of us in different agencies are wearing jeans to represent sexual assault survivors. In 1992, there was a sexual assault that occurred with a student receiving driving lessons from her driving instructor. In 1999, the conviction was overruled because the statement was, well, the jeans were too tight. There's no way that this could have been a forced rape. So she had to assist with the removal. So the jeans is in recognition of survivors who not only is it just the jeans, it's constant of what they're wearing, and also recognizing the men who are also sexual assault victims. So thank you again for recognizing this month.
In keeping with the Council's new resolution, public statements now received at different times depending on the item. I will call upon the City Clerk to call for public statements at the appropriate time, so please listen carefully for the correct time to speak. If you wish to make a public statement, please fill out a public speaker card and place it on the tray on the counter next to the speaker's podium. We ask that you mark whether you're here to speak on an item listed on tonight's agenda or on a matter not on the agenda. Speakers who do not identify a specific agenda item will be presumed speakers for the non-agenda portion. If you're here to speak on an item not listed on the meeting agenda, you will be called first to speak. Statements are given a 2-minute time limit, 20 minutes total, for all non-agenda items in the public statements. If you're here to speak on an item listed on the agenda, I will call for you at a later time, so please listen carefully. If public statements become disruptive and I have to clear the chambers in order to regain order of the meeting, you will be called in one at a time to provide your public statement when your item is called. Madam Clerk, do we have any public speakers regarding items not listed on the agenda?
Mayor Go, we have received 14 speaker cards on items not listed on tonight's agenda. I
Go ahead and
apologize,
call the
12 public
first
speaker cards. The first public speaker is Giresh Patel, followed by Roman Matera, followed by Nady.
Welcome, Doctor. Please
Thank you.
introduce yourself.
Good evening. My name is Girish Patel. I've been in Bakersfield since 1980 and have seen the city grow and prosper during these 40 years. We have an excellent Indian community in Bakersfield, and I speak on behalf of our community. Our temples and gurdwaras are heavily involved in service to community. Our members, Hindu, Sikh, Jain, Buddhists, whoever they are, we contribute heavily to the well-being and success of the community. We saw some tweets by a young girl in high school that contained foul and disrespectful language. Unfortunately, she was encouraged by her high school teacher. This example tells us that no guardrails exist in schools to guide the students in the right fashion. That is my issue. Most teachers are dedicated public servants. We instill good values and culture in children while they're growing up at home. We educate them to become good, productive members of the society, send them off to college with excellent grades in most cases. However, when they come back home with completely different outlook on life. They learn disrespect instead of respect, defiance instead of compliance. They spew foul language and obscenities instead of engaging in civil discourse and disagreements. immediately become degenerate into arguments and relations are strained. That is not good. So I would urge our teachers, the root cause is the teaching and indoctrination of the students. I would urge our teachers to put some guardrails, teach the students values, manners, and progress, and learn life science activities so that they can be successful in life. I think my issue is with the education system, and hopefully it'll be amplified by the board and the school boards. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr.
Good
Patel.
evening.
Next speaker, please.
Roman Matera, followed by Nady, followed by Mary Kay.
Welcome. Please introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Roman Matera. You've heard me speak before about the necessity of efficient land usage, so I wanted to come up here and do two things. Number one, I wanted to praise the efforts of the city in the direction it seems to be going with its zoning initiative, and I have submitted a separate speaker card to talk more about that. Number two, I wanted to add on a final part to my approach that I feel that the city should be taking. In addition to zoning reform and in addition to acquiring these vacant lots of land, it's important to remember the necessity of good public transit. 2 weeks ago, I believe, I spoke at the Multimodal Transport Committee meeting, and I talked to the authority of the GET bus shortly after the meeting. I mentioned a few complaints that I had regarding the difficulty of purchasing bus tickets online. And when they informed me of the actual process by which you would do that through the Token Transit app, I discovered that, well, I was actually wrong, and it is easy to buy bus tickets online. So I wanted to come up here and express my gratitude to the city authorities for helping me understand this process. It's thanks to this that I can even be at this city meeting now. The only thing I would suggest, if it hasn't already been done yet, is that when you look at the where to purchase fare section on the GetBus website, last I checked 2 weeks ago, it doesn't actually say that you can buy them online. It only mentions physical locations. So I would ask that if that hasn't been fixed already, to add Token Transit to that, because it made a massive difference to me. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Matera. Next
Mayor,
speaker,
may
please.
Mayor, go.
Yes.
Can I respond?
Oh,
Roman, thank you for your
something
comments.
is wrong here.
Is it not requesting? Okay, just very quickly, I just wanted to thank you, and thank you for your commitment to still taking multimodal transportation around the city, and for your feedback as well. Actually, right behind you is Cindy Parra, and she is very much an advocate and on the board with GET. So I think you two could have a very fruitful conversation about improvements. So just wanted to thank you for your comments, and thanks for your continued feedback.
Welcome. Please introduce yourself.
My name is Nadia No One, because my name is lost amongst the faceless, unnoticed, and underrepresented migrant community. Due to over-policing, we cannot be here, but we stand with our brothers and sisters here and in Palestine. We cannot vote, so you do not care to represent us. It is evident in the carcinogens spread through the pesticides we work with. They contaminate our air, water, soil, and food here in Kern County. We stand with Palestine for obvious reasons. We stand with the Palestinians because we know what it's like to have ICE at our door ready to take everything we call home. We stand with Palestine because we have seen our children die in cages and continue to see them die. We stand with Palestine because we live in fear of ICE detention centers reminiscent of concentration camps. We stand with Palestine because the tactics used over there are the same ones used to threaten the Latinx community in Kern County at the borders across the US and Latin America. We stand with Palestine because we see them and know their pain. You might not see us, but we see you. We might not be here today, but we know we know we stand with Palestine. We are the ones feeding America, yet you don't care to represent us. We pay taxes with our ITINs that go to fund the genocide in Palestine, money that could be used to fix our streets, improve our schools, clean our water system, not to mention the air quality in Bakersfield ranked #1 in air pollution. You've sold your souls as politicians, and it is evident you do not care about the people here in this country, from our farm workers, our undocumented community, and humanity. Free Palestine.
Thank you. Next speaker, please. Can you announce that, please, Madam Clerk? I missed.
Apologize, Mayor, we're trying to fix the timer. If you give us just
Oh,
one
okay.
moment,
Let's
please.
just wait 1 minute till we can get our technology working. It can be a wonderful thing to have technology, but once in a while we have challenges.
Okay, Mayor, next public speaker is Mary Kay, followed by Kev, followed by Cindy Para.
Welcome. Please
Good
introduce
evening,
yourself.
Board. My name is Mary Koharczyk. I stand before you, the third generation proud Slavic American. I'm representing that because I grew up with having a different last name that always was made fun of in school. So it is not lost on me when I look at our news and I see the complete and utter support that goes for Ukraine. As I, being a Slavic person, I very much recognize this. It is not lost on me as well, though, that same support is not given to our Palestinian brothers and sisters. Palestinian brothers and sisters are experiencing the same thing that my Ukrainian brothers and sisters are experiencing, an invasion. So I ask you, why is it that Slavic, that Ukrainians, why is it that their lives seem to actually matter? The Palestinians do not. All of our liberation, all of our freedom is all intertwined. So I would just ask the board to please look within yourselves, question maybe a narrative that you have of why one group we care about and the other group we are able to look the other way.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Kev, followed by Cindy Para, followed by Gabriella.
Welcome. Please introduce yourself.
As I stand in front of the council now, it's been 200 days and 40,000 deaths of an active ethnic cleansing in Palestine. And every single time we've spoken about it, this council has stared blankly at us. There has been no real conversation had on the council's behalf. And that makes you a liar, Andre. The chance for conversation is here. It is when we speak, it is when we talk to you in your photo ops. It's when Manpreet said that they would introduce the resolution. And to address what you have said, this is more than a foreign policy issue. It's my own tax dollars, the ones I had to file last week. It's my local spending, where Bakersfield contributes about $4.5 million. It's the families and friends of my neighbors and constituents, and it's also the actions of my representatives. Because I acknowledge that you can't stop it, but you can pass a resolution that is a statement which says that this council has humanity in mind. That maybe you would rather spend that $4.5 million here to do things like improve our infrastructure, to better support the education system, to fund environmental protections for the Kern River, to fund a tenant's right to counsel, to have just that much more money for our community, for the community that you claim to care about. And I know you would hardly do that now, which is why I continue to show up, especially with the Palestinians in mind. Because just as I see the genocide unfold on social media every single day, I live in underfunded communities that prioritize brutal policing every single day. And I see how instead of actually focusing on the systemic issues that harm us, you criminalize those who suffer. And unlike you, I can't ignore it. Free Palestine.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Cindy Para, followed by Gabriella, followed by Carmen Enriquez.
Welcome. Please introduce yourself.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and council members. My name is Cindy Para, and I'm here tonight to remind you that May is Bike Month, and Bike Bakersfield will have several biking events during the month of May that we'd like to invite the council. We'd like to invite Public Works, everybody, planning everybody in our government to come out and join us in some of these events. We will be having commuter stands every Friday during May. At the 2 locations will be at Beach Park and at the Stockdale Bridge at Cal State. There will be a ride of silence on May 15th. Anybody who needs a bike, Bike Bakersfield has plenty of e-bikes to loan out. We have organic bikes also if you like to just not have a little motor on your bike. And along those lines, I would also like to thank the council and Public Works for their continued efforts to embrace the Complete Streets ordinance, and by putting down paint, the green paint, the temporary striping and pilot projects that are going on for traffic calming. And I just want to thank you, Mr. Strakalous, for leading that challenge of making our streets safer for both pedestrians and cyclists. And one added note is just to say that Get buses also allow bicycles on their buses, so if you need a little help getting to where you need to go to, be multimodal and put your bike on the bus and get on your bike and ride. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Parra. Next speaker, please.
Gabriela, followed by Carmen Enriquez, followed by Maria Quinones.
Welcome.
Good evening. Hi. Thank you for looking at me and giving me your eye contact. Like I've said before, my name is Gabriela Mota. I was born here in Bakersfield. Both of my parents were born here. I went to high school here. I'm also a combat veteran, and now I live here in Bakersfield. I'm here tonight to address all of you, specifically Andre, because I live in Ward 2. I'd really like your attention, if that's possible, Vice Mayor. It's just 1 minute and 30 seconds is all that I'm asking for. So you've been speaking to the news and your other community members about how you want to have a dialogue with us as if we are mature adults. Most of the mature adults I know that want to have a dialogue with me can make eye contact and they can respond to me. So why won't you guys pass a ceasefire resolution? Okay. Well, this impacts your citizens, especially the Palestinian ones who have lost their family members, but all of us. We can see, especially, the way that this is impacted, Andre, because of the millions of dollars that we send to Israel, just from Bakersfield, millions, to kill babies. When we could, Andre, 30 more seconds is all. The only one, by the way, not looking at me. It's really difficult, I know, but I'm asking respectfully for your attention because you say you want to talk to me like an adult. So we could be using that money, the millions, to improve Bakersfield, Andre, improve the Ward 2 members, maybe just to listen to them at the coffee shop when we come to talk to the council member. Maybe you respond to us like mature adults, like a combat veteran that you want to publicly accolade. Listen to us, please. I'm almost done. There's 100 cities who have passed city council resolutions at the city council level.
Gabriela,
and you want to be like,
your time
I
is up.
understand,
Go
I'm
ahead
almost
and bring
done.
your
The last
comments
sentence.
to the close. Sure.
Thank you. So you want to be like the top 10 cities, Karen. How about Brentwood, Richmond, Oakland, San Francisco, just to name a few of the top greatest cities that have passed ceasefires? Why won't you pass a ceasefire resolution, Manpreet? You told us you would. We have it
Gabriela,
on video.
your time is up. Thank you.
Palestine.
Next speaker, please.
For the last 4 months, members of the Bakersfield community have been coming to these city council meetings in hopes of finding whatever's left of what some might call democratic values. We came to both speak on the atrocities that are happening against the Palestinians in Gaza, the genocide that is taking place as we speak, and to implore the city council to stand on the right side of history to vote to pass a ceasefire resolution. Instead, we are met with indifference, indignation, and then with state-sanctioned violence. We were lied to when we were told that this chamber was the right place to speak on these matters. It seems like all you care about is maximizing profit for those you truly represent. On top of this, you have the audacity to not only sic this nationally known killer police force on peaceful speakers and demonstrators, but it seems very clear that you are also out here inciting agitators to go after community members. This is Christian Gray, a person who was going around the grounds of City Hall, assaulting demonstrators and bystanders and attempting to start fights with others, as those in attendance tried to de-escalate. Witnesses observed this individual go in and out of City Hall unrestricted as demonstrators were violently pushed out. Upon further research, it was found that this person is related to none other than you, Councilwoman Patty Gray. And so I have one question for you. Why was your family member assaulting peaceful demonstrators on March 27th? And to everyone else, I want you to ask yourself, why has he not been held accountable? Glory to our martyrs and free Palestine.
Next speaker, please.
Maria Quinones, followed by Valeria, followed by Delia D. Dominguez.
Welcome. Please introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Maria Quinones. You know, I've lost count of the number of city councils that we've been in attendance at. We've been raising our voices against the continuing genocide in Palestine and Gaza. We've sent hundreds of emails. We've sent hundreds of letters. We've reached out, as many have said, to council members like Andre Gonzalez at his, Coffee with a Congressman. We have, responded to Councilmember Clark and sent emails because she said she wants to have a dialogue, and we had no response at all. We've been told that this is foreign policy stuff and this is not within your realm. But we have come to say not in our names and not with our tax dollars. How can this not affect your constituents when the city continues to send $4.5 million to fund a genocide of 41,000 Palestinians? When people in this very room have family members being forcibly starved, fearful for their lives every day, how could this not be a local issue? And I ask, how dare you lie to our faces to say that you can't do anything? $4.5 million is enough to provide 536 households in this current community with free housing for a year, or to cancel the debt of 119 students. Instead, you have been using my tax dollars to fund Israel's mass killing of 41,000 Palestinians, including 15,000 precious children. We have come to hold you accountable, to adopt an immediate ceasefire, as more than 100 cities in the U.S. have already done. We ask you to put an end to your complicity in Israel's violence, including ending Kern's military funding to Israel.
Ms. Quinones, your time is up. Please bring your comments to a close.
One
more sentence
yet. History will remember each and every one of your actions amidst this genocide. And when it comes time to vote in November, I guarantee that all of us will as well.
Next speaker, please.
Valeria.
Welcome. Please introduce yourself.
I had to come speak in person today to make sure Andre is hearing me, since he blocked me and many others from commenting on his Instagram, which is in violation of our First Amendment right to free speech. After pointing this out to him, that as an elected official, he is not allowed to censor us, he changed his biography from Bakersfield's Vice Mayor, Ward 2 City Councilman, to "This is the personal page of Andre Gonzalez. All views expressed are strictly my own." This is his attempt at a legal loophole to continue censoring us, despite the fact that the page is still used for sharing information about things like government services. I also find the censorship very funny, considering that he went on KGET and CNN to do interviews where he says that basically what we need is to have a conversation. We need to, and I quote, sit at the table like adults and exchange ideas and go back and forth and really try to figure out how we can find a path together. I'm just wondering when you're planning on doing that with us. Today marks 4 months since I came to my first city council meeting. I've come to every 515 meeting since then. You have yet to have a conversation with us. All you've done is go into local news interviews and say it's a foreign policy issue, when we've made it very clear that we know Bakersfield cannot send orders to stop the killing. Karen had the nerve to say she stands with Israel in October. Where was the indifference to foreign affairs there? Since then, the Israeli occupation forces have killed over 40,000 Palestinians, including over 15,000 children and over 100 journalists. We want this resolution because the people of Bakersfield deserve to know what side of history you are all on. We want this resolution because it is your job to represent your Palestinian constituents that have been showing up for the past 4 months. Free Palestine.
And Madam City Clerk, does that bring us to the end of our 20 minutes?
Yes, Mayor Go, we still have 3 remaining speakers.
Okay, but we're at the end of our 20 minutes. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. I'm sorry, but we've reached the end of the speaking period, so we welcome you back at another time. Next item, please.
Agenda item public statements. We've received 1 speaker card from Roman Matera for item 7C1.
Welcome, please introduce yourself.
Hi, yes, I am Roman Matera. I've talked about this at the last meeting. I think this is a wonderful initiative that you guys are taking with the zoning, so I wanted to come out and express my full support for it. I also did want to reiterate a concern from the, I don't know if other side of the aisle is the right term here, but basically the people who had some concerns about this rezoning initiative. You see, I spoke with them after the meeting, and one of the concerns that they had is that a lot of these acres that you're zoning for in this community, I think in the northeast part of the city, don't have a bus line running out there. And they were concerned because, you know, like as we zone for more mixed use things that can accommodate people with smaller living spaces, public transit is often a vital part of the services that they rely on to get to their jobs and to get around. So, of course, I support this resolution. Please do pass it. I just think that it would also be good if you meet their concerns and also extend or perhaps make a new bus line out to those areas. That way, those new people in those regions can get the access that they need to the services. Thank you.
Thank you. So this is the public statements on the agenda. And do we have anybody else, Madam Clerk, for appointments item 6 or consent calendar item 7? Is there anyone else who has already indicated that they want to speak under those 2 items?
No additional speaker cards were received regarding items under appointments item 6 or consent calendar items.
And we'll hear hearing item 9A later. Thank you. Next speaker, please. Next item, please.
Appointments item 6A, appointment of 1 member to the Planning Commission to a term to expire April 2028. This is for Ward 6. 1 application for appointment has been received from Zachary Bashertash.
Thank you. In that this appointment is by ward, no ballots will be required. I'll call on Councilmember Gray for the nomination of the Ward 6 Planning Commissioner.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I do nominate Zachary Bashertash, to the Planning Commission to represent Ward 6. Thank you.
Thank you. And is that a motion?
A motion, yes.
Thank you. You have a motion. Please cast your votes.
Motion is approved with Council Members Arias and Weir absent.
Thank you. And next item, please.
Consent calendar items 7 7A through 7I for approval. Additional correspondence has been submitted for item 7C1, and a staff memorandum was provided for item 7D10, transmitting the signed agreement.
Vice Mayor.
Mayor and council members, Councilmember Gray has requested to pull item 7D2 for separate consideration, and I will pull item 7I1 for separate consideration tonight. Councilmember Freeman would like to abstain from one item, and I'll give him the floor.
Go ahead.
Thank you. I will be abstaining from item E5. Let me see, because on the category that a person or involved in the proposed action is a source of income to me. So that's item E5. Thank you.
Mayor, with the exception of items 7D2 and 7I1, I move the approval of the consent calendar.
You have a motion. Please cast your votes.
Motion is approved with Council Members Arias and Weir absent.
Thank you. And now we'll hear 7D2, Councilmember Gray.
Thank you, Mayor. This particular item involves the Bakersfield Youth Jobs Program. And I would just like to read what I had written. I think I can get it across a little bit more understandable. So in May of 2022, the city received a grant of $5.4 million for a youth workforce development program. Initially, I was excited to hear that we'd received these monies, hoping that they would go to local businesses that could train our youth in all sectors, from trades to hospitality to our key industries, oil, ag, and so forth. But I was quickly disillusioned by the guidelines that were put in place by Sacramento. Oftentimes, when money comes to us, grant money, or probably, I would say all the time, there are certain strings attached. And when I began to ask questions about this, I found out the money was only given to prop up the government sector by providing internships for city government positions, rather than giving it to advance all sectors. This is the epitome of waste, I believe, coming from Sacramento when we're in a huge debt as a state. In all fairness, I do have to say that a very small percentage of the 50 positions that are being filled with this grant will be going to Public Works Department for training in fleet mechanics in the trades. That I was happy about. I am passionate about my position on this funding because it is a fact for every 5 tradesmen that are retiring today, only 1 is replacing the 5. I believe that these funds should be awarded in balance to the needs of the communities, a larger percentage going to the private sector. $5.4 million in funding could be used in a much more effective manner by capturing those youth that would be interested in an apprenticeship program that is offered by the city through, like, our Public Works for fleet mechanics, or trade schools. There are many youths falling through the cracks because they don't realize there's other options other than a 4-year degree. What we're voting on tonight is to approve funding to be used to add 2 positions to the city manager's office for management assistant positions with job specifications and compensation identical to management assistant classification. These positions will be funded by the grant, but when the grant money runs out, will the taxpayer take on the burden of more government? I could almost bet that we will. So in good conscience, I cannot support such waste from Sacramento to further bloat our state and city government. However, I could support this funding if most of the grant was being spent on promoting the trades and if it were available to small businesses that earn the tax dollars that pay for public employment. I am making a motion to not increase administrative employee complement to the city manager's office by not passing resolution D2. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. just want to respond to Councilmember Gray's comments. This program is designed to give young people, the age 18 to 30, experience in City Hall. It gives opportunities for paid summer internships for high school students ages 16 to 18, allows for nonprofits to take advantage of nonprofit internships. And I think that no matter where our young people find themselves in their career, moving forward, this is a really valuable experience to get a firsthand look on how city government runs. And I fully support this initiative. I think it has been very successful. I've had an opportunity to meet with many of our fellows throughout the time they've been at City Hall, and have been extremely impressed by their experience and on their knowledge based on working within City Hall. And so I would make the motion to adopt staff's recommendation tonight.
Thank you. Councilmember Kaur.
Thank you, Mayor. I also would like to respond. Look, if you haven't talked to a young person recently under the age of 30, which is what I would consider young, but also high schoolers, young people in college, if you have not talked to one recently, I would highly suggest it, because it is very tough to find a job right now for young people. The job market is not looking kindly upon anyone, and I am very encouraged by the Office of the Governor and the program, our Californians for All Youth Workforce Development Program. That is an initiative administered by California Volunteers, and I believe they were here in the city of Bakersfield last week or so. But this program is not the end of the cycle. This is really to bring young people to learn about city governance. And as we're a growing city, we are within the top 10, but our population continues to grow. We're one of the fastest growing cities. There was a wonderful article highlighting how folks are actually very much, their attitudes towards the city of Bakersfield and being residents of Kern is improving, and Councilmember Smith was quoted in this article as well. So, you know, I feel that it is very encouraging that our city administration, as well as partnerships with our governor's office and our state, allow for us to create this cycle of employment for young people. And this is within not only City Hall, but also our parks programs, which are essential. And we talk so much about parks programs and the cuts that we see, but there are people who fuel these programs in our departments, whether it's Bakersfield Fire Department, however it may be. Young people have the opportunity to look within. We're calling them in to involve them and have that ownership over their local city. And all of these departments that we all rely on and we all count on. So the goal is that now that we have this encouragement from our state leadership, that we can then train these young people to take on the jobs that, you know, hopefully they can one day replace some of maybe city leadership, maybe any of the jobs that they see, the thousands of jobs that they'll be exposed to within the city, but even beyond. And this is just the start of that cycle for them. But at least we need to bring them in so that they can find employment, and they need to know that our local city has a commitment to that. So I, for one, am very much in favor of this program, and I support Councilmember Gonzalez's motion. And yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Freeman, are you trying to signal? Councilmember Freeman.
Might be a question for Mr. Clegg. Where is the state getting this money?
If I need some help from staff, they're welcome to help come and clarify for me. But initially, there were federal funds that came through the ARPA program that funded the first tranche of this program. But subsequent to that, it is coming from the general fund for the state of California.
Of the state. I just wondered if it was from.
Yeah, these are state monies.
Yeah, I just kind of on principle, just that they're marriage to the problem. I would much rather see the money, but I guess the state doesn't agree with me to help our working people because actually there are many, many open jobs in the trades that can't be filled today that pay very well in Bakersfield, but we don't have people with the skills because we eliminated those skills from the schools 20, 30 years ago. So I would have preferred to see at least a split of the monies. But since we're running 70 million in the hole at the state, I'm really not sure where they're getting the money. They said they're going to cut education for the majority of this, which really bothers me as an ex-teacher. So, you know, I just have trouble on principle. I do agree it's good to have people train and get exposed to City Hall. So I'm kind of torn on this one, but I really don't think we should do it by cutting education. So I have a little trouble supporting taking the money. Okay, well, that's my comment.
Thank you, Councilmember Freeman. So we have two motions. We'll take the second one first, which is the motion by the Vice Mayor. You have a motion? Please cast your votes. And this is to support staff's recommendation.
Motion is approved with council members Arias and Weir voting no. I apologize, being absent, and council members Freeman and Gray voting no.
Thank you. And now, Vice Mayor.
Mayor and Council, item 7I1 is an Economic Opportunity Area Grant Agreement with Mount Zion Missionary Baptist Church for site improvements. Our EOA program has been very successful at supporting many small businesses and nonprofits and churches throughout our community, particularly in those neighborhoods that we hope to see economic revitalization. Mount Zion Missionary Baptist Church is one of Bakersfield's most historic churches and a church that should be celebrated. This year, in fact, Mount Zion is celebrating its 138th year serving the people of faith and the faith community here in Bakersfield, and it's their 75th anniversary at 825 California Avenue. I have partnered with Mount Zion since I actually left college and first came home and started work as a community organizer working in Southeast Bakersfield, and had an honor to partner with the church and their leadership and working with the city on economic development related issues. So before there was Maya Cinema, before there was McMurtry Pool, before there was the Marriott Hotel, Mount Zion was there, and Mount Zion was in the neighborhood. It's been holding it down as a beacon of light for our community. And tonight we're joined by the pastor of Mount Zion Missionary Baptist Church, Pastor Reverend Hiawatha Calhoun, and First Lady Calhoun as well. So thank you for being here, as well as many of the parishioners at Mount Zion as well. Will you all please stand up to be recognized? Thank you so much for your service, not only to the faith community, but to the entire community through many acts of community service and development throughout the years. We hope that this investment goes a long way in preserving the church, and for many years to come, success be upon you. Thank you for being here. With that, I'd like to make the motion.
Thank you. You have a motion. Please cast your votes.
Motion is approved with council members Arias and Weir absent.
Thank you. Thank you, Pastor Calhoun and team. Appreciate you. Next item, please.
Hearings, item 9A, public hearing to consider a resolution adopting fees pursuant to the cost recovery system and approving the master fee schedule. A staff memorandum was provided, transmitting a revised master fee schedule.
Our next item is public hearings. Each side will be allowed 15 minutes. It's 15 minutes for all speakers per side. So it's important that you identify yourself and make your statements succinctly so others may speak. We'll hear statements from those opposed to the staff's recommendation first. Then we'll hear from those who'd like to speak in favor of the staff's recommendation. If there's testimony on both sides, each side will be allowed a 5-minute rebuttal. There's a clock on the TV screens behind me which indicates 15 minutes. Please step to the microphone, identify yourself, and after 14 minutes, a yellow light will come on. At the end of 15 minutes, a red light will flash, indicating your time is up. Quickly end your statement. You may ask questions during your statement, but they won't be addressed until the public hearing is closed. If you have written statements that are longer than your verbal statement, please give them to the clerk and she'll provide copies to the council. Please be courteous to others who wish to speak. And before I open the hearing, if there's anyone who would like to leave at this time, this would be an appropriate time to leave before we start the hearing. At this time, before we open it, staff, please.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor and Council, our Finance Director, Randy McKeegan, has a brief introduction to this topic.
Welcome, Mr. McKeegan.
Thank you, City Manager Clegg. Good evening, Mayor Go, council members. This public hearing item relates to the city's cost recovery program and the related master fee schedule. And so state law requires that any change or increase to fees needs to be approved by council through ordinance or resolution and have a public hearing. So we are asking for the council and the mayor to open up to the public hearing. There are a few items of note related to this that I wanted to highlight. One of the major items is, in addition to fire service fees, it should be noted that these fees recover the reasonable cost for emergency services, but they are not charged to property owners who do not have related insurance. And in addition to that, we have added the animal control fees that were omitted from the master fee schedule before. So this basically corrects that omission. But again, we have staff available for questions after the public hearing.
Thank you, Mr. McKeegan. And at this time, item 9A is open. Is there anyone who'd like to speak in opposition to staff's recommendation? Please come to the microphone, identify yourself, and proceed. Seeing none, is there anyone who wishes to speak in support of staff's recommendation? Please step to the microphone, identify yourself, and proceed. Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing and return it to council for comment and action. Vice Mayor. I don't see any. Oh, I'm sorry, they just came up. Councilmember Freeman and then Councilmember Smith.
A question. We're approving
I'm sorry. Okay, I didn't hear what was said. Was there somebody who wanted to offer a comment?
I submitted a speaker card for, I believe, the item that you're.
Oh.
I believe that the clerk should have my card.
If you want to speak on this item, come on up. I'll have to open up the hearing. Sorry. We're opening it up again. I'm sorry for the confusion. Go ahead and come up. So are you speaking in for or against item 9A?
I thought that I had understood that you were going to say that there was going to be the for and against and then public comments, but maybe I misunderstood.
So are you speaking in favor, or against?
I'm speaking in opposition, specifically about the introduction of RMS, which is within item 9, I believe. The risk management, the risk terrain, that one. That's what I'd like to speak about. But I hope that my time hasn't begun because I'm not sure. Can I start with the whole 2 minute just so I can pull my thing here?
I don't know what RMS is.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. Again, hi, everyone. I would really appreciate if you could give me 2 minutes of listening. I've been here as well for the past 6 sessions, and I continue, I'm going to live here, so I want a respectable relationship to where, I can get smiled at when I walk in, and you guys can wave at me and stuff like that, too. So my name is Gabriela Mota. I'm a concerned citizen. I'm a combat veteran with firsthand experience in the use of surveillance and predictive technologies. I stand before you, Andre Gonzalez, to express my strong opposition to the proposed purchase of risk terrain modeling software for our local law enforcement. During my service, I witnessed the capabilities and the risk associated with these types of technologies. While they can appear to offer strategic advantages, their application in civilian settings, particularly law enforcement, must be scrutinized rigorously. These technologies can lead to unintended consequences, especially when applied without critical insight and oversight. In our community, we have already faced numerous troubling instances of police violence. The use of excessive force, often in scenarios that should have been de-escalated, not only has been questioned, but has resulted in fatal outcomes. These cases are well documented, and they have contributed to a profound distrust and a crisis in accountability within our law enforcement agencies and our community at large. Introducing RTM software and the similar relies on heavily flawed historical crime data. It risks deepening the biases that lead to over-policing of vulnerable neighborhoods. This is not speculative. It's a risk that has tangible negative impacts on real people's lives, enhancing surveillance and control without genuinely increasing or enhancing safety. Furthermore, the introduction of RTM raises significant privacy concerns, and it could create an environment where residents feel as though they're consistently on constant watch. This is contrary to the principles of free and trusting community. Drawing from my experience, I believe we should focus our resources not on surveillance technology, but on building bridges between the community, the law enforcement, and you all, through accountability, transparency, enforcement of those things, and then meaningful engagement. Andre? Meaningful engagement. I urge you to please consider these points and consider them seriously. Let us invest in our community with community-led initiatives. Let us invest in the community by improving mental health services or developing programs that address the root causes of crime. These are the types of solutions that truly build a safer community without compromising our values or the public trust. We should really scrutinize it. So thank you for your scrutinizing consideration. And for considering the voices of your constituents. Just wanted to reiterate that I come from an experience of my military experience, and that's something that you guys like to speak about. You like to accolade the veterans and the things that you do for veterans, but I have not. This is the first time that all of y'all have had your eyes on me. Oh, Bruce looked away. So yeah, I really would just like for you guys to listen not only to me about this issue, but in the future, when my community members and myself come here to these meetings, to give us the same respect that you give to everyone else, instead of looking down at your phones or your computers and then not responding to us. So I'm here. I hope to hear a response and some more information about the comments I said.
At this time, I will close the public hearing and return it to council for comment and action. Councilmember Freeman. Okay.
I want to be sure I'm on the right item. This is about the cost recovery fee schedule or not?
Yes.
Okay, so we're voting to approve the cost recovery schedule in front of us. Is that correct? Okay, just want to be sure.
Correct.
How would you explain, either Mr. Clegg or Ms. McKeegan, exactly what do you mean by the cost? How do you define the cost recovery process that you applied to? It looks like, I don't know, 50 or even more individual fees. How are each of those? What's your process for determining those?
Councilmember Freeman, thank you for the question. These fees are basically a calculation made by the department, depending on the fee you're talking about. They basically analyze the work it takes to get that service provided, that permit done, and then they calculate the number of hours, and then they in essence add overhead costs to that, and it comes up with a fee that they're going to charge related to those time calculations. In addition to that, though, there are some fees, notes in the admin, that are subsidized based on the populations that they serve, so they did not look for full cost recovery on those ones.
So I mean, there's so many different ones, but each department does an analysis.
That's correct.
Do they, saying, here's how we did it, do you determine the overhead factor that they use?
Yes, the
That
overhead
comes from
factor is
your
calculated by the
department.
finance department, yes.
So it would be actual hard cost if there probably are very few. Yes, you're increasing a fee, so there aren't any really hard costs. This is strict, is it 99% overhead the time they spend calculating the fee or processing the fee? Is that how, or is it actual, it's a little more, is it, no, they had to spend money, costs that you have?
Yeah, it's twofold. There are hard costs related to the department time they spend on it, and they do some analysis of how much time it will take. So they do look at that. They base it on the employees, the types of employees that are doing it, so they use their cost, their salary costs. And then there is this overhead cost. So that includes the cost of the general service that city managers, HR, IT, the city finance department, all of those are rolled into this calculation. And each department does actually prepare a worksheet that analyzes all of that. And we don't initiate that. We really rely on them to basically calculate those costs and come up with those direct costs.
But you give, I'm not putting words in your mouth, but you give them an overhead factor in general to apply, or they use an overhead factor for each different department that they take resources from?
Now, the overhead factor that they apply is the one calculated by the finance department for the basically supporting services of the other supporting departments. So, as I said, HR, city manager, city attorney, those types of services.
So they're saying this is the amount of time we think we'll spend on this item. So they determine the number of hours.
Yes.
I guess my only question, because I've been through prior life a lot of overhead reduction assignments at big corporations. Does anybody check if they all turn this in? So I'm going to spend so many hours on this, and then you just say multiply overhead, and that's how much we're going to raise the fee. Is there anybody who scrutinizes his challenges? Hey, that looks a little high. Is that really good? Just to be sure, if you're asking me, I'm always going to be conservative on how much time I spend. And I don't know if it all adds up to more overhead than we really spend on it. I just wondered if there's any sort of check and balance here before we bring it to council and say, just vote to approve all these. I'm not saying they're high or low. I'm just talking about a process that ensures that somebody challenged that is the route of time that it takes to do this, because the rest is just math after they plug in the hours. I'm not saying you do that. I'm just saying, does anybody do that?
Well, in those calculations, we do rely on the departments, but they are reviewed by their management and their department heads. So we rely on their review of the calculations of time. Okay. We in the finance department do not. In essence, what I do when I review it is I look at the changes. Is it really outside of what I would expect? It's something like a CPI increase to how that would affect an increased fee. But I don't do any audits of time and that type of thing.
Is there, what was not included in here, it's a long list, was I don't think, or correct me if I'm wrong. Okay, yes, it is. So the real check is to see what the percentage increase, does that look reasonable? Is that really where you check it?
That is what I do with the finance department, yes.
Okay. Well, I think it's worth talking about, just to let everybody know how we go about this. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Freeman. Mr. McKeegan. Before I call on our next council member, I just want to offer some clarification. I know some of you maybe have never been at this portion of the meeting. This is the hearing portion of the meeting, which is item 9. And the explanation that I offered earlier is the process that we use for this section, which is separate from the way we do public comments in earlier parts of the meeting. So just for future reference, it's just run differently according to the way this is set up. Councilmember Smith.
Thank you, Mayor. First, a comment. When I looked at this online, when you just like on this format. It was sideways on my computer, and I couldn't get it to flip. So I don't know if that's my technical problem or your technical problem, if you would try and look at that. But I did have questions. I did not see, we've talked recently about the plan check and inspection fees on subdivisions. That's not included in this?
Correct, Councilmember, it's not. We're still reevaluating the nexus based on that council referral on that topic.
And also, a lot of the building permit, similar to subdivision work, is based on the construction cost, and then it's a percentage of that cost. Do we go back and check to make sure that that is making sense, or or do we charge it in the beginning and then even up at the end? Because it's cost recovery, but construction costs, I think historically go up higher than inflation, higher, faster than your cost would. So theoretically, if you're using the same factor, you're going to end up charging more than you should.
I want to say back in March, Councilman Smith, we were asked to take a look at the construction costs for bonding prices. Right. And do a review of that. And we're coming to the conclusion of that review and are preparing a summary of that for council and the city manager's office to look at. I think that review of those construction costs had led us to more accurate numbers for looking at what those bonding rates would be, which are also used to determine what the fees are for permit inspections and permitting.
But that's different. I mean, there's no bonding cost on residential construction on what we're voting on tonight.
No, there's not.
And so, but the same logic applies here, is that if those bonding costs are out of whack for reasons that you've now found, then these numbers are going to be out of whack. And is there some way we go back and check these numbers also?
Well, the numbers that we found that were different were the ones that we were focusing in on from public comment, the excavation costs. All the other numbers seem to be right in line, but the excavation cost was a little bit off there. Whether excavation is a component of the fees that are determined here, I'd have to take a look at to see if there.
No, I don't think it is. I think this is strictly, sticks and bricks. Mm-hmm. And so it's still, the correlation between construction cost and inspections escapes me. I guess, if I'm using cheap marble or I'm using expensive marble, the inspection's the same, but I'm going to pay more for the inspection.
Councilmember Smith, let me jump in. I understand what you're saying and the logic there. Often with some of our fees, we have to use a proxy measure, and I think you're questioning just the fundamental theory of whether that's the right proxy measure.
Right.
So a couple options we have, to move forward. We could take that as a topic to really take a hard look at. We could move forward with this, fee schedule as it is today. I think it would be a fairly significant delay to change how we're looking at all of those construction fees, collectively. But could look at, a revision to the master fee schedule after we take a look at that sort of proxy measure. And one of the, I'll finish that thought and then I'll come back to one of the reasons we use proxy measures. But we could, I think if we were to, again, try to address that in the short term, it would be a challenge to identify a different, cost methodology. But we could take that back, review it, take it back to the full council or committee, and still revise the master fee schedule if we change the methodology, but allow us to move forward tonight. I think if we were to postpone this item for that set of fees, it could be a challenge with, being able to collect the other fees as well. So I think happy to have staff do some research about, are there other measures that we could use to identify the cost recovery for construction. One of the reasons we use these types of proxy measures is that the only other way to really identify that is to do pretty labor-intensive time studies. Those time studies usually take a while and have a certain cost element to them. And so we often look at things that are a good approximation. But in this instance, particularly given the direction of council to look at how do we continue to keep our development costs as low as possible to stimulate more housing development and more economic development, it makes sense for us to look at, is that really the right methodology?
I get that, and I wouldn't want to slow down where we're at, but just, the logic doesn't work for me. And it seems like I assume, timesheets are all on the computer these days, and, as the inspector's moving along, he's punching in where he's at and what he's done. And so it should be easy to say, he was on this house X number of hours, and therefore it should cost X dollars for his inspections of that house.
Not being as familiar with how they track that at that level of detail, I couldn't say. I think that there's sound logic to that. I couldn't say if our record keeping's truly that good. But we can go back and look if there's a better way, a better methodology that's more accurate to our true costs.
Okay, I would make that part of my motion, and I would move to approve, but also look at if this is truly cost recovery or not. I mean, that's what it's called. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Smith.
Move to approve.
Thank you. Does anyone else wish to speak? Right? I don't see any, or are you signaling? Okay, so we have a motion by Councilmember Smith. Please cast your votes.
Motion is approved with Council Members Arias and Weir absent.
Thank you. Next item, please.
Council and Mayor statements.
Just waiting for the screen to clear. Councilmember Freeman.
A couple of items. This is just a request for the city manager. Could you at a meeting soon, I don't know, next meeting or the meeting after that, update us on what is going on with, I think it's called the B3K effort. It's almost, I know they're doing stuff, but it's almost like this secret group we give money to. We never have any idea what they're really doing and working with the KDC and how that's going. It's like it's over here in a black box, and the council's behind it and supplying money, and it's to promote economic development. And I'd just like to know, what have we done this year? What's going on? Do they even have goals, milestones that they have to achieve? I think before it gets renewed, we'd like to see, here's where their goals, here's what they achieve. Maybe they report every quarter, just what's going on? It was heralded as this great study of the areas where we should be investing in Bakersfield for different types of jobs. So it's a very important subject, but I don't know what's going on there. I don't think anybody else in the council does either. So keep us informed, maybe quarterly something. It could be a report from you. It doesn't, I think you're on the committee. It doesn't have to be one of their speakers coming down, but we'd sure like to know, what have we accomplished? What do we expect to accomplish? Things like that. And then one other item, which I'm not going to send it to a committee yet. I'm going to actually, again, as the director city manager asked, think about it. I sent you, Christian. I don't know who else. I have to be worried about the Brown Act, but a new
Councilmember Freeman, can you pull the mic down, please?
A newspaper article that surfaced I think came out of Southern California with with different buyers just praising the heck out of Bakersfield because they were buying houses here. And it was because they could finally afford a home. They were coming out of LA, talked about a young couple, I think they paid $415 or $30, and they got this fabulous house. Remember, in Valencia down the road, you can't get a one-bedroom condo for under $750. They bought a beautiful new home up here, 2,200 square feet, whatever, for $415 or $30, and they said, you can't believe this. And the article researched that, and then I followed with some builders today and asked, that's the only thing bailing them out of the recession right now. With the complete collapse of the housing market, 7% interest rates, it's the people coming from out of town, discovering Bakersfield, that are keeping the home building industry going. So it's real important. They're remote working or finding a job here. An awful lot of remote working. And these people are thrilled. We're sort of this, and we're still undiscovered. And I had said, well, maybe we ought to do some housing advertising or co-advertise with builders. Maybe that's not the right idea. And I actually asked the builders, and they said, you know, what they would really like to see us do, and we talked about this about a year ago, is a promotional video ad slideshow showing what an incredible place it is to live in Bakersfield. Show all our amenities and parks. Show the houses and what you pay for them. You know, all the Lake Buena Vista. Show the beautiful things here, and the ball fields, and all the things, the great restaurants. Promote Bakersfield, but you can have a great video, but if it never gets to anybody, it won't make any difference. And then we have to have someone help us, because it's all done on the internet now. Nobody uses newspaper advertising anymore. And I don't know how to do that, but there are plenty of people who do know how to do that. So that we make you can call it a video, a slideshow, whatever, a promotional piece that shows the best of Bakersfield and why you would want to move here from Southern California or Northern California or the coast, because your quality of life is going to double. And retirees, we used to target McCaskill, they came from Ventura, they came from the Valley, all to buy their retirement home here, and it was 1/2 the price and twice as nice. Well, now we have all the young buyers young families who want to get out of LA, but because they can't afford anything down there, and many of them can remote work or find a job here. So, you know, that's a target. But I really think it's time. I may be exaggerating, but I really say the only asset Bakersfield has, above all other California cities, that sets us apart, or the #1 asset, is affordability. It isn't that we don't have great ag and we don't have other industries, but the one that makes us stand above all others is affordability of homes, and therefore quality of life, because a lot of people associate that with whether it's a rental or a home they own. They associate their quality of life with where they live, the home they go home to. So I really think, and I'd like you to just think about, I don't know if this needs to go to a committee. It might be something you can handle with your staff, you know, but I'd sure like to see. But I'd like you to get back to us, give us some feedback within a month, maybe include it in the budget. There's a time, if you agree, here's a timeline. It takes 6 months to get it done. But rather than just talk about it, I think, especially now with the home building is still down. I mean, it doesn't matter. They're getting these out, but we're not booming, put it that way. And there's no greater, the biggest job multiplier every economist knows is home building. More jobs are created in home building than any other industry in the nation. So there's a huge ripple effect that goes through your local economy. Lots of locals get involved. You know, they buy drapes, they go to Home Depot, they fix up their landscaping, buy furniture. It has a huge multiplier effect. And we know our unemployment rate is double the unemployment rate for California, and California is the highest unemployment rate in the nation. So that's how bad things are if we want to be compared to others. So I just think we need to kind of move on this and at least seriously evaluate it. So if you could get back to the council with your plan or opinion, maybe in the next month or so, I'd really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Freeman. Councilmember Kaur.
Thank you, Mayor. I wanted to share some good news coming to our city as well as Ward 7, and a quick shout out to Councilmember Bob Smith, who is on our Kern Council of Governments and brings this good news to us as well. In their April 2024 progress report for projects of regional significance, some exciting news coming to Ward 7 near our Ash Road to the 99 Taft Highway is going to be improved with being widened, as well as bicycle lanes are coming, shoulders are being improved, the median lane and sideways, and other ADA improvements are coming. This is an investment of $59 million in our city and within Ward 7 in South Bakersfield. And the expected start date of this project is this fall in October. So that is very exciting news, especially as we think about a South Bakersfield development plan, and Taft Highway really has become kind of this transportation corridor, especially for our trucking and logistics industries. And this improvement will radically improve and really enhance not only multimodal transportation, but also just how we're getting fleets in and out of our cities, and of course, also supplementing the jobs that such a big industry helps supply for us here locally. So wanted to thank Caltrans, wanted to thank Kern COG, as well as our local, our departments that have worked on this, and just wanted to thank you and encourage your continued advocacy for improving our roads, especially when we are multimodal. So thanks, Bob.
Thank you, Councilmember Corr. Vice Mayor.
Mayor, council members, we still have some members of Mount Zion here tonight, and we made an investment through our EOA grant to the church. I also recently have had a conversation with the church just across the street, Kane Memorial AME, with many different city officials to discuss some of their concerns for their surrounding neighborhood. It was very productive, very well-attended community meeting, and we had a list of things to do over the next few months. But one of those items and one of the questions that came up was with regard to the 6 acres that the city owns in our entertainment district on P and Q in California. This was bought during the old redevelopment days by the city of Bakersfield, and it's shovel ready. It's ready, it's primed for development. The vision by this city council years ago was to see the completion of our entertainment district. And so I think it's important that we still maintain that vision, but I'd like to get an update from city staff on where we are and what is the status of that project. And so I'd like to make a referral tonight that we revisit that particular project at Budget, Finance, and Economic Development. Secondly, Bakersfield is not just a collection of disparate neighborhoods. We are a city with collective community characteristics. We're bound together by shared values, aspirations, and challenges. When one part of our city suffers, the entire city suffers. When one neighborhood thrives, we should all benefit. And so we can't afford to turn a blind eye to the struggles of one particular neighborhood or a particular neighborhood, because inherently in the future it will become a struggle of the city. And we've seen this in American cities throughout history. And so I want to call attention to the struggles, the chronic struggles of Union Avenue, particularly between State Route 58 and California Avenue. This area actually just became a part of my ward after redistricting. And since that time, I've had a number of conversations with business owners, with residents. We've had coffees with the councilman, as was indicated by one of the speakers, in order to hear what those pressing concerns are. But I have to tell you, from all of my conversations, there are very real chronic issues on Union Avenue, and we can no longer afford as a city to ignore them. And I want to thank the city manager and staff for engaging with me on some of these issues related to Union Avenue. But I really think that it's time that we take a concerted approach to addressing both in the short term some of the challenges, but also long-term development opportunities for that particular corridor. And so I'd like to make a referral tonight that staff prepare a plan of action with short-term, midterm, and long-term goals to address some of those systemic issues on Union Avenue and to prepare that for the Safe and Healthy Communities Committee. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Smith.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to make a referral regarding the Youth Commission. My youth commissioner's here. Welcome again, Carter. It seems that when the Youth Commission was set up, it was set up to teach them, I guess, the rules. And his first statement was, well, we learned a lot about the Brown Act. And I've met with them quite a few times, but I don't know that they learn a lot about the city or actually what the city does or actually what council members do. And so I would like to make a referral for us to start fresh with the Youth Commission. And maybe it has a different format, maybe it has different rules, but I think we could engage and teach the youth of our community more about what we're doing than what we have been. So I would appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Smith. Councilmember Gray.
Thank you, Mayor. Being a committee member for Safe and Healthy Neighborhoods, I have been receiving from different constituents, and not even my own constituents, to other people in the community, that the street racing and the illegal quads, the bikes, all this is beginning to become a problem again. And I think all of us in this room can say that we've been witnessing this on the streets just as we're driving. So it was brought to my attention again. I think it's time we put some more effort into this. I talked to the city manager about it yesterday. Mr. Clegg very much agreed, and thank you for your quick response that I got from you within 5 minutes today. I appreciate that. That we can, there's a community member that's very, wants to be very actively engaged and had some great ideas. He had sent a letter actually to every one of us elected, Mr. Bill Stone. So I want to just bring it to the attention of the community that we are aware of what is happening. Bakersfield PD has done a great job of doing some stings in the past, arrest, impounding cars, and I just want to shed light on it once again, that we can bring more attention to this, because I think it's starting to become a bigger problem again. So anyway, I just want the community to know that we are not deaf, and we do have eyes to see, and we are going to be working on that. And I appreciate Mr. Clegg's involvement with me. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Gray. I don't see any other requests to speak. Public safety remains a top priority for our residents. We're grateful that the state has sent some CHP officers to partner with our Bakersfield Police, and we're just grateful with that. We have that opportunity for even more reinforcement to keep our public safe. The Great American Cleanup is this Saturday, and we invite all of you to participate in that Keep Bakersfield Beautiful initiative that we do once a year. We stand adjourned at 6:48.